happy podcast season, I guess. Happy holidays. It's Kyle and Cody's called CinemaCast. I'm Kyle.
I'm Cody.
Cody apparently found a Christmas movie.
Yeah, in the middle of November, I guess. I guess it's the 30th.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the
kind of
30th. Yeah,
December,
no,
but
it's...
it's not. Oh no, it's actually like tomorrow's the 1st. I thought there
yeah,
was like a 31st in November, but apparently there is not.
yeah. No, it just swung by, didn't it?
Yeah. I felt like 2 weeks ago was Halloween, but that might be because of uh the wonky recording schedule that we've had recently because of just a lot of transitions, and having Curtis on is a treat, but it probably throws a wrench in everything that's going on here. So
And there was also a bunch of I think me and Curtis both got sick for like a combined like 2.5 weeks out of October, which also screwed things up. Uh,
yeah, and apparently there's like a really, really bad cold going around.
mm,
I walked into Fast Gas today, and this lady was like, she was so sick that I thought she was literally like sitting at the till and like crying because of, like, just how badly her sinuses were, like,
oh,
swelled up and stuff like that, like,
oh, that's
and she was
awful.
on the phone, so I thought maybe she got, like, really, really bad news, like a loved one just died or something, and, and then I asked her about it, and she's like, "No, I'm just really, really sick right now," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave now."
Oof. So, yeah, we found the movie. Yeah, Cody found a movie. He recommended it a while back, and I was like, "Yeah, well, I can fit that in." And then we were just like, "Yeah, yeah, maybe we should do a. It's getting close to Christmas, but we should do a Christmas movie." And he's just like, he started watching something that we had, and like was like, "Oh, this is..." Cody started watching it first, and was like, "Oh, this is rough. I don't really care for this." And he's just like,
Okay,
I
but,
just
like,
googled it. Apparently, hardware is a Christmas movie, and so it is.
can we did you watch the first, like, 10 minutes of, the other movie, though?
No, I was gonna start. I got distracted toward the end of the day here,
Okay,
and I was talking to you right before I was like gonna start it essentially after I finished some chores.
okay, but, like, let's be completely I don't wanna give too much of this away because it's quite the treat, but, like, the beginning of the movie, like, they introduce, um, Santa Claus, and then they're like, "Oh, and all these children are here from around the world that are helping Santa Claus, like, with his Christmas stuff," or something really stupid like that, and then they start going into these, like, "And here are the Chinese children," and then the Chinese children are, like, singing Christmas songs, and, like, it's almost to the extent of, like, being racist, but it's, like and it goes on for, like, 10 minutes, and they're like, "Here's the Mexican children, and here's the Spanish children." Like, it doesn't stop, and then, like, it's an early 1960s movie, so they're like, "And here's the Orient children," which I don't think Orient's technically,
No,
like, a what they prefer to be called anymore,
no,
like,
no, they
I
do
in
not.
India, the only place that they didn't actually show on screen was, English and Canada. Like, they didn't want to, like, offend the British apparently because, like, they didn't wanna do a caricature of British people or something because they
Come
just
on,
showed, like,
they're the one
um,
guys you're allowed to make fun
they had oh, yeah, by far. Um, and, like which is funny because that's actually I can't even remember what I was watching the other day, but, there was a joke going around that, it's kind of ironic that, like, Europeans went in and stole all the spices from, India and still can't make, like, decent food, but, they didn't show the children, but they had them seeing, like, London bridges falling down, so Anyways, like,
Uh,
if you're looking into that movie, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube.
yeah, Santa Claus versus the
I
Devil.
don't
It
know if
was
we're
on
gonna end
YouTube.
up
Yeah.
getting around to it, but
Yeah, we'll see next week
I
maybe.
guess
But
we
yeah.
can't really bring it up and then hype it up and then never, like, even really touch on it, so I think we're gonna try to at least attempt to, but that's kind of up to Kyle at this point in time and, like, his schedule for editing.
But yeah, this week, Hardware, a 1990 cyberpunk horror movie.
Cyberpunk horror Christmas movie.
Yes, cyberpunk horror Christmas movie that is apparently ripped off from a story called Banged My. Yeah, it's ripped. It's apparently ripped off from a short story called Shock that appeared in Judge Dredd Annual 1981, a spin-off publication of the popular comic series 2000 AD.
Yeah, it's a one other weird tie-in that we were able to,
Yeah,
throw in there because we, uh
yeah. Reviewed Dredd earlier.
another
Yeah.
really weird tie-in was, one of the characters, or one of the actresses played, a small role in the Highlander series, um,
Hmm.
of, like, a two-part story arc, which was really good that I liked, so I bring up Highlander way too often on this podcast, but I really did enjoy watching Highlander.
We're gonna have to start reviewing a couple of movies eventually.
Eventually,
Yeah,
I don't know which one.
yeah. I haven't watched any of the
I don't even know if
sequels.
I don't know if I've ever watched the original, which is really ironic.
Oh, we should hang out and watch the original. That'll be a thing we can do.
Christopher Lambert is I didn't like him as much as I liked, like, Duncan MacLeod, so I found him kind of bland, but that's my own personal opinion. People really like to or seem to like, Christopher Lambert's portrayal of Connor MacLeod, so
Yeah, yeah. We can we'll maybe do that. Maybe we'll get together as like a Christmas thing and watch Highlander. It's a good movie.
yeah, so, like, I think I have a question for you. How many times has this happened to you where you're like, "Hey, I need a gift for my girlfriend. Let's get her, something that she can turn into an ashtray," which ends up being a killer robot that will eventually try and murder her.
I mean, honestly, more than once, but who am I kidding?
You
Uh,
know, that's the whole premise of this movie, and, like, I don't know who thought about this, but, like, at one point in time I think we talked about, like, sentient self-repairing robots a few times on the podcast where, I think Toy Soldier was probably or
yeah, small soldiers. I think you're thinking
Little
of
Soldiers.
small
Small
soldiers.
Soldiers, there we
Yeah.
go. Being probably the most, I don't know, I guess critically acclaimed movie, but we've delved into the artificial intelligence and stuff like that before in the past. Like, once again, it just checks one of the boxes that needs to be checked before, we pick a movie, and I think this one was, kind of one of the shoo-ins in the and I think I was just scrolling through Facebook, and one of them, like one of those, like, "Did you know?" posts was popped up in my feed, and they're, like, talking about it, and I was like, "Okay, let's look into it," and then I can't remember if they were actually sued
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
by,
Yeah. On certain like on certain like home video releases of this, they have a thing at the beginning. I don't think they have like the notice at the beginning of this one, but we do they the production studio for Fleetway Comics is credited in the opening crawl. But on some of the home video releases, they just say like, "Oh yeah, this movie is has some plagiarism things that went through."
it would be interesting to look at it, like, I mean, I think the comic is only like 7 pages long, so you could probably even just Google it and end up finding it. But like, my point is like, how like this is like, I wouldn't say like a moral gray area because plagiarism is bad, but like, how much can you claim is like in storytelling? How much can you like has to like? I'm pretty sure to be able to claim plagiarism, it has to be at least like 30% of, like, the original material.
I mean, like the issues were somewhat successful. It did sort of go through, yeah. So it must have been reasonably close.
I think this also boils down I think this has to be, like, one of those things where, like, if you probably just asked permission, the comic
Yeah.
book writers who wrote, like, a 7-page, like, tiny little manuscript within a larger magazine would be, like, so thrilled that somebody's like, "Hey, can I come in and, like, write this, like, screenplay for this little bit that you did?" And I'm pretty sure anybody in their right mind would be like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, please make a movie out of this, like, small nugget of my, like, resume at this point in time," because I've moved on to other things. Maybe even just, like, throw me a writing credit or something,
Could be.
like,
Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah.
just ask permission. But also, I guess it probably falls into, other legal issues, and I'm pretty sure 2080 was one of the comic books that was really big into, retaining, like, all of its own stories and all of its
Mm.
own, characters?
It could also
Characters.
be that
Um
like maybe someone else owns the film rights to it. So like if it's
mhm.
in the Judge Dredd comics, it might you'd have to like go through the guys who own the rights to Judge Dredd to get it, which would be a little bit more money. The budget on this is a wee bit short of a million British pounds. That's about 1.5 million American. Box office ended up being 5.7, so reasonable turnover. But yeah, I don't know what the yeah, it might have like if someone else owns the film rights, that might be where the complication happens. Because this is produced with like MGM and Miramax.
Yeah, when I watched, like, I think, my copy was, a 1080p Blu-ray rip, so, like, those are big studio names, but I don't know if they have, like, distribution rights.
Yeah, it's saying distributed
So I
by
don't know if,
Palace Pictures in the UK and Millimeter Films in the US, which is Miramax. Millimeter Films is Miramax, which is a Disney offshoot, I believe. Yes, or no, now it's owned by Paramount currently. But it would have actually been independent when this film was made. But it was a Disney operation for several long years. They do. I think they do a lot of what do I call it? What's the guy? Tarantino stuff. But yeah, this is technically a mostly like a British made film with a bunch of American actors playing the lead characters, which is what
too.
at the request of Miramax.
I think I was watching, somebody else do a review on it, or I was reading something, but, the director, I can't remember his name, he was allowed to pick 2 Americans, and he specifically wanted, the main female lead, Stacey Travis, and then he wasn't able to get his, first pick for, the male lead, and he ended up settling on Dylan McDermott.
Hmm. Richard Stanley's the director. But yeah, there's yeah, it's like a robot slasher movie. Honestly, it's kind of a dumb robot. I don't really care for it. I'll just say that. It looks cool. It looks really cool.
Mhm.
But it's way style over competence. Like it is just a terribly dumb robot. Yeah, we'll get into it, but I don't find it to be very literally intimidating. The movie seems like not it's not I think it tries to be like 2001 the slasher movie, but I don't think it does very good at that. Like it's like there are just moments where it's like, oh, it's trying to be like the really deep movie, but it's not. I just don't get the impression that it's nearly as deep as it wants to be.
Apparently, he, like, most notably recently, Stanley in, 2018, he made it an adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft, short story, The Color Out of Space, which, stars Nicolas Cage. So,
Oh, he did that, did he?
if you ever wanna watch. Yeah, he was
Oh,
the director for
nice. Yeah, so this guy, I mean, that's probably better than this.
it.
You and I'm looking at some of the stuff he did. He did a like a he did this straight after doing a like guerrilla documentary about some of the I'm not sure, but I think it was just he was hanging out with the Taliban in the 90s doing a documentary about them. This was during the Taliban Soviet War or whatever they call it in like 1990 or like way a little back
Mhm.
then. Ooh, I can probably find this.
The document the Soviet-Afghan War, Stanley and his crew witnessed the Soviet army withdrawal and the country slide into civil war that would bring the Taliban to power.
Okay, so he doesn't necessarily hanging out with the
Which the
Taliban. Okay.
document went under the name of Voice of the Moon, and it's a 30-minute look at the daily lives of the Afghan people trying to survive the war. So
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's yeah. But yeah, it looks like yeah, this guy's got kind of a cool. He was gonna do the Island of Doctor Moreau, but he got fired. Yeah, no, and then he just has like a huge gap in his career up until like 2019 when he does The Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage. Huh. I've heard that movie's okay. Yeah, I suppose if Chris returns to
yeah,
feature
which is really
films.
weird because I did like I think he did a few short films in the intermedium and then documentaries.
Yeah, Children of the
Well, even
Kingdom.
at that, like
Yeah,
there's a
Sun's Gone Dim, Sea of Perdition.
2002 he made a documentary and then the next one he makes is in 2013. So I mean like 10-year gap there. 2009 he made Imago Mortis, and then in 2017 he also, I guess he does a lot of writing and not as much directing, then returns to directing.
He's maybe yeah, he's maybe done some abuse, which is something. Although he's contesting that currently. Uh yeah, yeah. Uh yeah, we won't get into that. That's still in progress. But yeah, I think it's trying to be kind of interesting. But yeah, the movie opens with like some lasers going over like a flashback thing. Probably like a photosensitivity warning for this movie. There's a lot of like flashing lights. That's probably just a thing you should have, just in case you're sensitive to that sort of thing. But yeah, we get there's a bunch of flashbacks with some lights and over like a desert. We get a quote from the Bible, I think. I'm gonna actually look this up. Just Mark 13 Bible. I'm not make sure that's the actual Bible quote that they're referencing because it's not like is it like Mark 13:1? Maybe it's just
Mark's
I'm
1320.
Mark 13:20. This is King James, and except the Lord had shortened those days. Oh, yep, there it is. Yeah, it's part of Mark 13:20, though it only quotes in the movie as Mark 13, which I thought that was wrong. but the full Mark 13:20 is, and except the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved, which is the part from the comma there of where they quote, no flesh shall be saved, but for the elect's sake. Okay, so it's just that, yeah, we just get no flesh should be saved, whatever that, which is the only bit of the quote I've seen, which is looks to be like a third of Mark 20. And except the Lord had
They're
shortened those
definitely
days,
cherry picking, like,
yep, no
one
flesh should be
sentence out of the whole
saved.
entire Bible
Yep,
quote.
yep, yep, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. No flesh should be saved, but for the elect's sake, whom he hath chosen, he hath shortened the days. Uh, yeah, I don't know what this is about, the whole thing. I don't feel like reading all of Mark, if that's all right with everybody. Uh, that's King James version, in case anyone's looking to check me out there. Yeah, just the regular Mark 13. I assume 1 is like, as he went out of the temple, one of his disciples saith unto him, Master, see what manners of stones and what buildings are here. Yeah, no, I have no idea how this would. Yeah, they're just picking the line that sounds. I think it's not terribly relevant. They just found the thing that said no flesh shall be spared, which isn't even like there's a lot of talk in this movie about like population control, which is I think what they're trying to get at here. It's yeah, no, it's just a weird little cherry picked to find the cool line. But yeah, we cut after the Bible quote, we get some shots of like sand dunes with some western guitar, and we see that the wind is exposing this metal hand, and this guy like like cuts his way through some barbed wire that he could just jump over, and then finds this metal hand and its head and manages to like grab it for salvaging. So yeah, this guy's a salvager at some point, and he gathers it up. We get some hints from like the radio, where the radio guy just says, "Oh, the radiation is way up." I guess this is a place where they're post-nuclear war. They also say it's 110 out. I'm hoping that's Fahrenheit and not Celsius. Probably Fahrenheit, because 110 Celsius is like probably I don't know if that's water boiling, but it's we tend to top out about 50 Celsius. So we cut to our main character Mo, short for Moses, because this movie's trying to be biblical. Yeah, which I don't know if it does successfully. Maybe someone who knows their Bible better than either of us would have to like see what they pick up on. But yeah. Also, I think it's meant to be hopelessness because normally Moses, if you're trying to get the symbology, Moses would be like the guy who like delivers like the people from their oppression, but this character doesn't really do that successfully. He like talks about that being a good thing, but I think it's just this is just meant to instill hopelessness when like this character eventually dies, spoilers, as like oh yeah, this is going to be like apocalyptic, and this is going to be like a whole like if Moses can't save us, whatever. But yeah, anyway, Moses and his British friend Shades are walking to a junk dealer. Shades is trying to convince Moses that they should go do a salvaging expedition to New York City, because there's lots of stuff to grab there, and but except that there's like a shit ton of radiation, which is probably the problem. But then when they eventually get to the place, they start to do some salvaging. The guy from the intro comes up. This guy actually makes it onto one of the posters, even though he's not in the movie at all after this. Like he's just meant to stand here and look
Yeah, but
cool.
he looks really cool.
Yeah, he
Like,
looks really cool.
if you're gonna go for like the whole like post-apocalyptic like wasteland, he kind of really nails his outfit. So
Yeah, yeah, no, he looks real cool. Um, I think this guy is Carl McCoy, I think is who this guy is. The actor, he's playing the character's just credited as I think as Nomad. Carl Douglas McCoy, a British singer who is the frontman for the goth rock band Fields of the Nephilim. I'm kind of interested.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of cameos from
Yeah.
rock stars in this movie. Like
Yeah.
Iggy Pop is
Yep.
doing the voice of like the radio people, and
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to originally be Johnny Rotten, but I'm pretty sure Johnny Rotten passed away. I'm not exactly 100% sure.
Johnny Rotten, is
If
he
you don't know
the
who these
he's
guys
Sex
are,
Pistols, right?
no,
No.
I want to say they were the part of the Stooges, but Iggy Pop is definitely part of the Stooges.
No, yeah, Johnny Rotten is Sex Pistols. Who are the Stooges? I'm not remembering the Stooges.
They're all British, like pop or punk bands. Uh,
Yeah, the Stooges. Okay, yeah, this Iggy Pop is in the Stooges, or I think it's sometimes called Iggy and the Stooges. It says. Uh, yeah, this is yeah, Johnny Rodden's Sex Pistols though.
and
Um,
he's the lead singer.
yeah. Also, Johnny
And
Rodden's still
Sid
alive.
Vicious was yeah, Sid Vicious was the one who ended up passing away
Oh, yeah, yeah,
after
yeah.
maybe
That sounds right.
murdering his girlfriend or not. Not 100% sure. And I don't think anybody really is. He was high and somebody he I think he was like the girlfriend was stabbed to death.
That might have happened, but that would have happened in '79. Yeah, because Sid Vicious died in '79. But yeah, that's beside the point. So yeah, they're yeah, Iggy Pop's doing the little. He does an interesting job as the voiceover guy. It's kind of interesting seeing him like excitedly proclaim a few things. But yeah, they Mo and Shades go to meet up with this salvage dealer Alvy, played by Mark Northover, and they're going to do some, and they manage to get some salvaging. Mo pays Nomad for the parts of the robot he found because he thinks he looks cool and it'll be good to impress his girlfriend with. Unfortunately, this deal does cause him to lose like 5 bills of whatever currency they're using. I think they call it C's credits. Yeah, so it costs him 5 credits, I guess. But he does get the head of this robot to give to his girlfriend, who is apparently an artist of some sort. But yeah, that's a whole thing. We get some more information on what happened overnight. Apparently, there's a war going on. Not said who with, but 578 died in it last on Christmas Day because this is happening in Christmas. Something we know because when Mo buys the parts from Nomad, he's just like Merry Christmas. So yeah, this is happening over Christmas, and he's on his way home for Christmas. Check on his girlfriend, who we meet up. Her name is Jill. She's works with metal and makes some sort of art. We're introduced to her as she walks by, and someone does ding dong ditch at her heavily fortified door, which is yeah, like hydraulically pressed door, which is very interesting. We get some more radio stuff about a sterilization bill, which is how you know these guys are sick little fascists. They do have like they're just like offering people money to get sterilized, I guess, which is has no historical precedent whatsoever at all. Definitely not something that happened frequently. If not for physical money, then for, shall we say, like commuting sentences or as a condition to get money on welfare or whatever. All of it like dredged up from like racist reasons. Yeah.
I think like, even if you look into, like, even 30 or 40 or 50 years ago here in Canada, I think they're doing it to, uh, Indigenous people,
Oh yeah, yep, that's
um,
among that.
in Alberta and probably Saskatchewan. I hate to bring that up, but most likely Saskatchewan.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely living victims of
Um,
this.
and I don't know if they were using it as, like, a precursor to anything. I think they're just doing it so, underhandedly that eventually they're like, "Well, these people are sterile. Why are they sterile?" And then they looked
Mhm,
into, like, medical records, and they're
mhm.
like, "Well, they're sterile because the government sterilized them at that point in time." I could be wrong, though. I'm not 100% sure.
You're not like the details of the wear are different, but there's like all kinds of like you can find examples of like doing it to like as bribery. You can find examples of them like doing it without the usually woman, although this does happen to men too. But you do have examples of like this going on, where like people going under for some other surgery, and then the doctor just deciding like, oh well, I guess while I'm in here, I'll do a hysterectomy or some shit. Like any number of
Mhm.
like any horrible like example of this you could possibly think of has probably happened. Just like different times, different places. But yeah, I think even like in some of those ICE detention, I think there's maybe some rumors of it happening in some of the ICE detention places in the states currently. But this is a very common thing, and I think up until like a lot of medical schools were kind of like promoting this up until maybe 20 years 25 years ago, when it was kind of like just like taken out of the like school books maybe. But there's a lot of like people with like medical training that would have gotten this like advice that this is a thing they should do. Like that's a very like it's a whole awful history if you really want to look into it. But you can, yeah, absolutely find examples of every horrible thing you can possibly think of happening to most types of oppressed groups. Even just like I know, especially like in like the pre World War II eugenics movement, there was a lot of like if women got charged with like crimes or was just like misbehaving a lot, they'd do it to her. I think the numbers aren't like like ones like no matter what number I say, it's obviously gonna like it sounds small. I think there's like some states that did like 30,000 of them or something. It's like you get these details mixed together. It's hard to keep them straight. But yeah, I can't stress you can just find every horror story you can think of in one place or
Yeah.
another. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of actually a pretty this is a pretty disturbing thing they're bringing up. I don't know that they do enough good with it. I think they're also bringing it up in perhaps a like a weird way. The government of this world is doing it as a way to like from the government's point of view would be like we're doing this to like there's a lot of radiation in a lot of people. I think even like Moses walks around with like a cough, and it's like suggests that like he might have some sort of radiation based cancer, and they're using the this eugenics program to phase out the people who are genetically radiation exposed, where they can't have proper children. Which, look, if there were no historical precedent for this, that might be less concerning. But it's just like, oh god, you could like literally also like in the state where you have like a nuclear like a global nuclear war, probably everyone's gonna have some level of like radiation poisoning, so you could just literally just like pick and choose whatever people you wanted to get like uh sterilized and like conceivably justify it, and it's just going to be like the wealthy elite that are going to be spared of it, which is obviously just going to cause their delusion. Like, yeah, this is. mm. I got worked up about this. This is, it, yeah. Sorry, this is yeah. Ugh. This is such like a fucking nasty subject. You get on about it for a second and it's just like, oh yeah, here's this other worse thing that has happened in the universe. And ugh,
Yeah.
no, it's especially now, like when like you realize how not far away it is. Like there, like I think like I said earlier, there are people alive that like could look you in the eye and says, yes, a doctor like put me under for some routine procedure and like uh did something to my genitals so that I couldn't have birth. Like that's a person that is alive that could talk to you and tell you that. Also like people, yeah, I could go on for hours and I kind of just want to move on at this point. Yeah, I would just want to move on. That is sorry. Yeah, that is rough. Yeah, so we get a scene where Mo and Shades have to take a boat-based taxi downtown because apparently this city is flooded, probably by global warming. Which I don't know, what year does this movie take place in? Jesus.
I have no clue, but this is such a weird environment because what like earlier on they showed the nomad walking through one of the zones and he was in a desert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like so
Yeah.
dry post-apocalyptic wasteland, and then now all of a sudden they're like, we need to take a boat to be able to traverse the copious amounts of water that are in this other zone. What I'm saying is they didn't at least stick to one radioactive wasteland or like water world type scenario, and then instead they're just fusing the two of them together, which doesn't really make sense, especially towards the end of the movie, which like we'll get into later, but like it just doesn't specifically make sense anymore after you like start putting that together and that together, and it just kind of falls apart a little bit. So
I think that's part of like the editorial interference I had mentioned earlier. I think they were going to try to make this essentially like London initially,
mhm.
but that ended up getting messed around with because they Miramax insisted on using American actors, which confused a lot of it. So they had to make like when the main characters are essentially with American accents, you got to like pin them into it pins you into an American setting.
Yeah, but that is such like a weird shoehorn, considering like the majority of the cast is British and only two of the characters are American. Like, why would you just say that they were Americans in Britain instead of Britons in America? I don't know. That just seems like a weird editorial choice to me. If that's seriously the case, then I mean, sometimes studios need to just I don't know, get fucked. So, like,
But yeah, this is it is I think it is like inadvertently confusing where this takes place. But yeah, I also don't I couldn't find what year this movie takes place in. So yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
eventually
specifically
yeah.
think that they ever actually fully
No.
explain it to anybody. So
Yeah.
that's fine. I don't think you need explanations. Sometimes it's just
It's the
I,
90s.
I
I think
I
some of them
do
still think that
love
yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
when old science fiction is like in 2008 the world is going to be, and then like you actually look at what 2008 was like in the real world and you're like, wow, these guys were way fucking off.
I I do love the memes where it's like today on January 8th, 2023, this is when the robot invasion happened. Where were you? Like those are always fun posts on Twitter whenever one of those dates come by.
I keep on seeing like I read an article a couple years back. about a virus that was supposed to come from icebergs that were melting because of global warming, that was supposed to devastate like half the population because our immune system wouldn't be able to handle this disease from like 2000 years ago, which is complete bullshit. I think our immune system has evolved so far ahead that it wouldn't exactly affect humans as badly as, but like they keep on like bringing my hopes up because this is what they did the other day. It's they called it a zombie virus. And what they mean by a zombie virus is a virus that was resurrected from long ago when it died in an iceberg. And then since it's melted, scientists have rediscovered it or discovered it for the first time because of the iceberg. It's not a zombie virus.
No, it is a virus that is a zombie, not a zombie virus.
Yes. So they use the term zombie virus so that people
Wrong,
click on it, and then they explain that, and I'm like, well, fuck you.
So yeah, and as Mo and Shades are making their way up to Jill's place, Shades is trying to talk to Mo about the benefits of going to space to do space work, and they balance the problems with that of like Mo's just like, yeah, it's nice until like your heat shielding goes on your way back or up there, and he's just like, yeah, but you get a lot of free space, which I guess yeah. Which, yeah, I can see how, like, given the state of the city we're
They're
in,
just like throwing everything at the wall at this point in time and seeing what sticks, I'm assuming.
yeah, this is very much just like they've created a society and then like create a threat that I guess says something about it. I'm just not sure like this is like is this trying to warn us about something? Is it I don't know, it's all difficult and like yeah, I it's creates some
The way I
dystopian,
look
yeah.
at it is like they like took every aspect of the like dystopian like genre and we're just like, let's throw it into one movie and then like make the minor threat of an AI that grows artificial intelligence and becomes sentient and then starts rebuilding itself. See, I would have liked if they went even like one step further into the situation where they're like making like other makeshift Mark 13s, which they don't do. There's only one. I mean, I guess it's probably hard to try and like shoe in the added threat of having multiple Mark 13s or and I guess like arguably the threat of like a robot that can reassemble itself after being destroyed is probably just as scary because I think this bastard came back to life like more than once throughout the film. So there's always that like in the background, but like, and I guess it's probably more towards like they don't have the technology to kind of like put together another like makeshift Mark 13 throughout the no like throughout the movie. So
I feel like there's a lot of like okay, this is a thing that sucks about the society. I'm like, yeah, that sure does suck. I don't feel like I'm getting like preached to, which I mean, I normally like when you say like a movie's preaching to you, that's like meant to say something bad, but I don't know. Like, I think this movie could use some preachiness to it. Like, it doesn't like they talk about all these horrible things and like they don't do anything with them.
I mean, so here's one of my quips I had about the movie. Mo starts like yelling at his girlfriend that she should go out and get a job, and stop sucking like welfare benefits from this futuristic cyber government that's like a still a thing. Like, so it's it has a small little bit of preachiness to it, but like her like whole counter argument is so fucking valid. Like, they're in a dystopic, radiated wasteland. Like, what exactly do you think there's going to be out there for work? Like, scavenging is like,
Like, at the end point of this movie, it's like, oh yeah, at the end of the last one of the last lines of this movie is like, Iggy Pop's on the radio and he's just like, "Hey man, they're opening a new death robot factory. Everyone get their jobs at the death robot factory." And it's like, yeah, that's those are all the jobs now, I think. Yeah, I feel like they're not like maybe they like I don't know, maybe they delve into the eugenics shit a bit more, or but I don't think the robot is I think this would have this is does make a much better like 7-page short story, because like at the end through this whole thing you end up with a story about a government that's like so desperate to get rid of its own population. It builds like this shitty death robot that is not very good at its job, but if it's too good at its job, they're not going to be able to build more death robots or some such shit. And it's like it definitely says something, but uh, it's like did I watch like an hour and a half of this for like that message? It's like that should have been like a Twilight. I feel like this would have been like this might have been a very effective Twilight Zone thing if they had like edited this down for like a Twilight Zone thing, which it apparently already was like something like that, but they made it into like a framing that was too much for its like what would they were need to do. So yeah, they get to Jill's place. Jill lets him in. There's some talk about how Moses isn't around enough because he was with the army or something, and he got kicked out of the army. And this is a whole thing. I was really confused about it. I didn't know what was like. Oh yeah, what were we doing? And it's a whole thing. But anyway, they're okay with it, and Jill and Moses have sex in the shower. It's revealed that Moses has a robot hand, which he didn't really notice initially because it was kind of like wrapped up in all his stuff, and he was like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of a glove." Also, that look, it is just like physically like it's not a very good special effect really because it does just look like a big glove. Like it's very clearly bigger than the rest of his limb. So it's like, oh, you see it and you're like, oh yeah, that's a glove. But no, it's a robot limb because he doesn't take it off for the shower or anything. So yeah, it's clearly some sort of prosthetic.
mhm.
And after this, we get a whole like long sex scene, and the robot head starts to reactivate, turning on just to like watch, like any annoying pet, just showing up right as you're about to have sex. Uh,
Sure.
The sex scene is soon ruined by amazing. We're getting this 2 episodes in a row. A pervert with an X with a telescope, who is staring at her from across the like the road essentially, and through with like a telescope, and is like talking real nasty, and is staring at the whole thing. It's real gross. We thankfully eventually cut back to Alvi, who is like researching the parts that Moses left him. He found like the serial number on the side of the robot hand, and it was just like he types it in. And it's like it turns out that like it's some sort of military robot, the Mark 13, which is a death robot with some sort of biotoxin in its needles in its hand. And through this, Alvi realizes that, oh yeah, this is actually probably something really expensive. So he calls up Moses to try to get the head back so he can sell it for big money. But Moses decides just to go over there without the head because he doesn't know what's going on. Also, during this, they've called Alvi is called in the middle of the night, so he picks up his Bible and reads up some verses from Mark 13 because that's a thing that he came up with. I guess. Moses seems like a faith-based person. Like he has a crucifix and everything, and has a Bible. So, which, yeah, they're building up Moses as like a big damn hero, but he doesn't even like survive until the very literal end. So yeah, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, he goes out in the middle of the night because Alvy wants to talk to him urgently. We get some more information about the Mark 13. It is very susceptible to moisture because yeah, in the like exposition we get about it, they say that that's why military funding was cut for it. It's because it was really bad to moisture. Although apparently by the end of the movie, military funding gets restored to it. But yeah, we get the whole thing that the Mark 13 is an auto repairing robot that can even like charge its batteries from dead, and this eventually leads to the Mark 13's hand coming back to life and stabbing Alvy in the neck with its neurotoxin needles, which it has. We also see Moses handle a picture of a little girl, presumably like a daughter or a sister or something. I don't know. Jill gets woken up by a phone call from the perv from across the street, who tries to like negotiate his way into the room. Doesn't end up working, but that's just further encapsulating what the perv's deal is. Mo shows up at Alvy's junk place and finds Alvy dead. He reads through a bunch of the documents he has lying around and is caught up to speed about the Mark 13. And he tries to call Jill to warn her, but the Mark 13 has repaired itself and has crushed the phone, so it can't. So Mo can't talk to Jill. Mo ends up calling Shade instead, who is high as a kite. So Shade does eventually get talked into helping, but he's sort of ineffective. It should be noted that this is like 50 minutes of the movie. Like this movie is mostly build up. It is a very slow
Yeah, the
build.
climax isn't great either.
No, yeah, it's kind of off and on. Like you feel like it builds up for a climax like 3 times. Yeah, this movie has like a call. Like there are people that like swear by this movie. Apparently, there are like some people like, yeah, this is the best movie ever. Yeah, I don't see it. I'm with a lot of people. I don't really see it. It's all right. I just don't know that it's like doing its best thing that it could be doing. Yeah, at this, the Mark 13 takes a buzzsaw hand and rips into it takes a buzzsaw and rips through Jill's bed, missing Jill and doesn't pursue her anymore. But someone comes to the door, and as Jill's like she opens her door and goes to go through the door, and it turns out the perv is right there. The perv is Lincoln Weinberg, played by William Hootkins. Yeah, that's a he's been in a bunch of movies and stuff. He's a famous supporting actor, but he shows up
Star
at the
Wars,
door. Yeah, he's in Star
Raider
Wars.
of the Lost Arks.
Yeah, he's in stuff.
He's Porkins.
What's that? Oh, he's Porkins.
He's Porkins,
Right,
one of the
I
guys that are
recognize him
flying
now.
the X-wings.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Now I get it. Yeah. So yeah, this guy's been like stalking Jill apparently. He wanders in. It's this point where the Mark 13 stops being very intimidating actually, because these two stand here and talk for a good long time, and the Mark 13 does not come for them. Neither of these people are armed, and the Mark 13 probably could kill them easily, but it just doesn't. It goes and hides for some reason, as they have this really awkward conversation. I don't know if this is limitations of the machine or just like I don't know. They want to talk a lot, but yeah, it's slowly revealed over the course of this conversation they're having that Lincoln is a stalker as well as a pervert. a perv that's peeping Dong that's been staring at her through the windows. He's also fucked up and gotten them both trapped in the door because as soon as he walks in, forces his way into Jill's apartment. The Mark 13 closes the doors behind them, and then breaks the thing so that she can so that he has to so that the only way they can open the door is from the main console, which Lincoln explains because he actually is the guy in charge of installing all the security systems for this building, and that's how he knows all about what's going on over there. There was also some we also could notice that he was getting some audio from Jill's apartment earlier, and I guess this is somewhat related to that. Lincoln agrees to go turn on the computer so that they can get out of there, and he's just trying to talk himself up, trying to get Jill to go out with him, even though he's clearly the creepiest man alive. This is just the worst situation. They're fending them. They're lighting the area with like a little blowtorch, which Jill has to give Lincoln in order to go out into the room. He starts doing the computer, gets most of the way through, and he's just like, "Oh, wait, I should open the curtains." And she's just like, "No, don't open the curtains. What are you doing?" And it's like, "Oh, but no, I need to open the curtains so that I can stare at you later." And she's just like, "Oh, wait, I didn't close the curtains." And it's revealed that the Mark 13 had closed the curtains and it was hiding behind the curtains. Which how? Like how? That's a good question. Like, are these curtains like a? Is there like a foot wide crawl space between the window and the curtains? What's going on here? This is such a weird little thing.
I have no clue. Like, maybe she was out of the room and he came in and, like, fucking turned the curtains off and then went back to his hiding spot behind the curtains.
I guess. And why is the robot hiding? It's a death robot. Why is it hiding from two unarmed civilians with like a blowtorch?
I like to think that, this was his, second or third plan, and his first plan was just to cover himself up, like, with a whole bunch of coats and just be like a moving coat rack or, like
He the Mark 13 is one of the shittiest death robots I've ever seen in my life. Like it is just like supremely incompetent.
for something that's supposed to be, like, artificially intelligent, yeah, not
Yeah.
super intelligent.
Yeah, and like it's something that's supposed to be like a method of population control. Like
Mhm.
granted it does okay. It kills 5 people, which isn't
Like,
nothing.
3 people.
Uh
Yeah.
Alvy, Lincoln now because it kills him as soon as Lincoln like turns open the blinds. It kills a couple security guard. No, it kills one security guard and gets lucky with the other one, and then it kills Moses later. So yeah, it kills 4 people with like one auto repairing death robot. Like what the shit?
I think
Like
you kind of nailed the coffin on the head or the nail on the head earlier when you, stated that they can't make these things too smart, because if they're too smart, then, they'll overthrow all of humanity, so they needed to, dumb it down or give them, one stupid weakness, which they eventually do, so
yeah, it's like trying to kill people like it was like a human serial killer. Like a human, like conceivably like a human guy would conceivably like get a little nervous about having to fight like 2 people no matter how unarmed they are. Like that's a perfectly reasonable thing
Mhm.
for like if the Mark 13 was a person, like its actions would make perfect sense throughout this movie. But it's not. It's a death robot. And what you're like if Jason Voorhees did these same things, like did the exact same things that happened in this movie, you'd be like, "Oh, that was a pretty decent Jason Voorhees kill count." But for like a literal death robot, come on, this is kind of lame. Has a neurotoxin it barely uses. No, it's so yeah, it's
I
such
mean,
a
he uses it twice.
why is it even near the neurotoxin? Why not just give it a big fucking knife? Like what is the neurotoxin for?
Exposition.
I guess. To give us a trippy moment at the
A
end of the
weird
movie?
hallucination scene later, like,
Yeah.
trippiness.
Yeah. But like
Um,
what's the in-universe
I
thing
mean,
though?
that doesn't do, like, anything visceral, like, for me. Like, I don't like the drill, but, like, the drill, like, moving towards eyes and stuff is kind of like that's way more scarier to me than, like, a needle that's gonna be, like, inserted, and then you're gonna die, like, an hour later from a drug overdose.
Yeah, that's also
Bec
a thing. There's just a movie called Driller Killer or something. There's a or like there's a movie where a guy just has a giant drill that he kills people with. And this, you get the same effect. That would be way more scary.
I think there's something to be said about the fact that, like, I feel like they were going for, like, as cheap as possible, but, like, also, like, semi decently high budget because of, like, the whole robot thing. If we took this, like, a movie down to the basis of what it needs to be, like, you don't need to have this whole dystopian fucking, like, separate universe into it type ordeal. Saves you a lot of trouble. You don't need any of the radiation, a giant water boat ride. If you wanted to just make it as simple as possible, it'd probably look something a lot similar to Black Christmas, and that I guess that doesn't have, like, a whole lot of, like, curb appeal. Even as you were saying earlier, like, Friday the 13th, yes, Jason Voorhees. We don't need, like, all this convoluted, like, bullshit to add on and tack on to make this, like, a half decent, visceral,
This
like, horror
movie,
film.
I found the movie I was thinking of. This movie is Slumber Party Massacre by the way of Blade Runner. Like what? Like why? Like it's like that's such a weird thing. Like it's just reducing this whole thing to just like making this whole awesome, like interesting set dressing for like a very like for what Slumber Party Massacre is like what the main like thread of the movie is, and it's like yeah, whatever, doesn't mean anything.
Mhm.
But yeah, no. Granted, this is probably more tasteful than Slumber Party Massacre. I don't know. I haven't seen the movies, but I'm just looking at the poster for Slumber Party Massacre, and it's just like a guy standing a bunch of in front of a bunch of women in lingerie with like a drill hanging between his legs. It's yeah. I imagine this is a bit more tasteful than that. I'm sure
Uh,
that movie's controversial.
probably.
I don't know the plot of it very well. I've heard of it. I watched like a cinema style review of it like 6 years ago or something. I don't know. Moving on.
Wow, the freaking 1980s must have been crazy.
They were.
Like,
I think I've stated. Yeah, that
yeah,
movie's Slumber Party Massacre is 82. But yeah, no, I think I've stated once that, like the 1980s is like that like episode of Rick and Morty where Rick makes does like a bunch of dances and art where he's just like where the thesis of his art is just like I'm dying in a vat in the garage. But he's making a bunch of like art that everyone loves so no one takes it seriously. And that's what the 1980s is
mhm.
essentially. Like that entire thing. Because like everything that's good from the 1980s is just like our world is heading for like a fascist dystopia. Please do something to stop it. And everyone's just like, ah, guns or guns go burp 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 burp.
And, I like how, like, this is probably the best definition of, like, the 1980s. The film was originally written by Brown. The Slumber Party Massacre, film was originally written by Brown to be a parody of the slasher genre, but instead was just turned into a horror movie. Like, is there a point of, like, where you're parodying something so much that it just becomes the actual thing that you're parodying? Like, is that a parody at all?
Yeah, it's a question that many have grappled with.
Like,
You're not, it's not the first movie to grapple with that, and it certainly will not be the last. But yeah, that happens. Jill. realizes that the machine only has thermoscopic vision or infrared vision, whatever you want to call it. So she decides she can hide from the thing in her fridge, which works, even though like it would have seen her go into the fridge, and maybe if it like had been like even slightly smart, it would have just like, what's the harm in just like taking your drill bit and just like jamming into the fridge 4 times? Like it could have gotten her really easily here.
Like, yeah, but at least if you're it's specifically from a writing standpoint, this is just a giant fucking plot hole that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Do something like Black Christmas with this, okay? There's a group of people that are living in a house. Murder robot has been running rampant for the last 3 hours, killing people. She goes, finds all these people that he's killed, runs to try and hide in the fridge away from this supposed infrared sight that she somehow figured out it has. Earlier on, the murder robot killed somebody, put him in the fridge to hide the fact that he was running around killing people. She hides in the fridge, finds a dead body. The murder robot follows her to the fridge, sees that she's in the fridge. She goes to stab it, like the fridge 4 times. She instead grabs the dead body and holds it up, so blood rushes out. At least that's like a way to plausibly write into the fact that oh, this thing has infrared sight, and infrared sights are apparently blocked by fridges. Like, at least it's somewhat it's like plausible that other things happen. Also, I think like Death Robot killing a sorority house or something would probably work. And also, you don't need to write in the whole convoluted science fiction background. Like,
Mm. Yeah, and like so a lot of this movie can be good. Like the robot looks super cool. I kind of like the dystopian reality they've come up with, but it's not. None of this services this killer robot plot.
mhm.
This is one of the worst killer robot movies. Like as far as like being a killer robot movie, it's doing a really bad job of it. There's a lot of interesting stuff in it, but it doesn't service the killer robot plot. Whenever I think about like what I want this movie to be, it's just like get rid of the killer robot. Do something a lot more highbrow than this. And then maybe you don't get sued by the guys who write Judge Dredd. But it's just such a they're just like they're insistent on doing this fucking killer robot movie. This movie should be something more reminiscent of Soylent Green. And there's like inspiration, like there's on record inspiration from Soylent Green for this movie, but this movie should be trying to be a type of Soylent Green type movie. It should be one of these like 1960s sci-fi horrors where like they discover this horrible thing about society, but no, it's they're just decide like we're gonna make this horrible dystopian society and like make it a killer robot plot in the worst way possible, and doesn't end up working out.
Even if you take something in so low budget as like The Purge, you're still making like better commentary on like the world around you than you are trying to just ram dystopian topics together to make some convoluted plot line. So
Yeah, either like this doesn't work. They can't be doing this. There's a lot of different directions they can go. Like either stick with like the serial killer plot, make a better killer robot movie, or make a better dystopian movie. This does not work. It's like taking a bunch of things that could be good. It's making like a pretty decent puppet. It's making what like it like I genuinely mean what I said. If this were like a just a regular serial killer, it would be kind of tense. But it's a killer robot, so it doesn't end up working. But like none of it blends together good. So during the skirmish of in the kitchen, the Mark 13 breaks off a the gauge on a propane tank. And when Mark 13 gets distracted after it's done searching for Jill in the fridge, Jill runs out of the room and lights a cigarette, lights a bunch of her marijuana cigarettes and uses it to set the gas tank on fire, because I guess that's really dangerous that all these that this stove is just powered by like a big tall propane tank, like just off of like one of those welding tanks essentially from like a welder. It's yeah. Like why is it just a regular propane tank? Like propane powered stoves probably definitely exist. So weird.
Yeah, but they need to make it look visually
Yeah.
like this is something that can explode.
Well, a propane. They're trying to like the reason they pick with like this like I suppose oxygen tank instead of like a propane tank is
Mm.
because this looks more dystopian than a propane tank. Propane tank, you're like a propane tank is something you're comfortable with. The oxygen tank is like industrial and makes you nervous. But anyway, so she blows up the kitchen and uses that opportunity to let to open up the doors so that Moses, Shades, and the security guards can come in. Actually, like the security guards finally showed up. We had seen them throughout the movies, the earlier bits of the movie. I didn't mention them, but there are a couple of African British guys or African American guys. Go ahead.
Another problem I had with the movie, like they spent, I don't know, maybe like 10 to 5 minutes, like bringing in these side characters that are just like cannon fodder, and then like they're trying to make some like super cool like foreshadowing that like winning requires sacrifice because they're sitting downstairs playing chess together or something like that, and then it's like, oh, I get it, because they're trying to make it so that like sacrifice isn't like important somewhere in all of this, and it didn't make me feel anything for the characters. And I mean, like, they were just kind of side characters that were literally just meant to die eventually. Like, why try and like hype them up in some like emotional like
I
reason
had
behind it?
forgotten about
But
that.
they're also like, yeah, but they're also trying to like set up the fact that like, oh, they need to find the monster's weakness, like bullshit, to over like a chess game, because like,
Oh god, I had totally forgotten about that scene, and now that I've remembered it, I am so angry with it.
yeah, it makes it so much worse.
No, yeah. Like that has the potential to be something cool. And they wasted it. And like also the defeat of the monster doesn't require any like sacrifice. It just kills some people to get it done. I don't think there's like a sacrifice element here. They play up Moses to be a Christ-like figure, haha, but it doesn't work. Also, like they just kill off both the black characters in one fell swoop. Like in like 3 minutes, they'll like kill both of these guys in like 1 second. And it's so dumb. I don't even have like the elder one of these security guards listed in the credits on Wikipedia. I only have like the younger one who has like slightly more lines. But no, it's so like it is like egregious actually. The more I'm thinking about it, because like I had forgotten that that scene had happened, and like yeah, that could have been like a meaningful scene, and they do nothing with it.
Yeah, but like, my arguments on the complete other side of it, like they didn't really need to like it feels like they're trying to patent like runtime, and they're like, we need to add in something that makes it more, when it really wasn't. Like, they're reading into their own like pretentious bullshit too much. Like, where they're like, we're gonna add in this like subplot about the, I don't know, security team in the basement. That's like, they kill him off with like like crushing doors, like that apparently the artificial intelligence is controlling with its mind or whatever, like convoluted bullshit that they're trying to make up to. I also love how much they chalk up to this like robot being able to control like electronic stuffs, because at one point in time when he kills the Lincoln, who was like this the perverted guy from earlier, I think that's what he's credited in
Yeah.
somewhere
Yes. Yes.
um
Yes. Yes.
on YouTube. I think it was one of the kills. um I watched it and it was like death robot kills pervy guy or some weird like shit like
Mm-hmm.
that. Like the person clearly didn't watch the movie or like whatever. Anyways, he um like wrapped this guy up with like random wire that like shot out of its leg that he never uses again. Or like the fact that this guy's like basically in control of the whole like security system of this house that he is like being underutilized. Like you have so many ways to like trap these people into like this death house that could have just been over the top and like cool, but no, you wanted to give runtime to security guard basements. And yeah, like what Kyle was talking about earlier is one guy gets crushed by the door, and then the one guy who was crushed by the door had a gun in his hand and shot the other guy in the head by accident. So
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't even count that as like the robot killing that person. That was literally just somebody else killing that person at that point in time.
Yeah, I totally like when I was doing my kill count, I was just like, yeah, one guy. Oh wait, the robot didn't kill that guy. As they were crushing the older security guard in the door in a couple minutes, the security guard just happened to have his gun pointed right at the other guy's head. Shit. like like that's such a like a terrible coincidence. Like what? Like why would you what was the point of any of this? But a brief bit before that, the Jill goes up to her front door and is greeted by Moses, the security guards, and Shades, who tell her to duck down because the robot's right behind her and they need to shoot it with a bunch of guns and eventually shoot it out the window. So yeah, that's a whole thing. They shoot it out the window, uh, and John and Moses and Jill have a big conversation about what they're gonna do, because her like building has been destroyed and whatever. It doesn't go where much. Jill apparently understands the whole thing that's going on with this robot now. She's just like, "Oh, this is about the government doing its population control," and then like, okay, I don't know how you know that. It's doesn't make much sense. But eventually, she gets pulled out of the window by the robot, who has repaired itself and is throwing her onto a power line. Which, thankfully, she's not touching anything, so the electricity just goes right through her, and she's slipping. But the robot man eventually cuts the wire, and she falls into the building below her, or into the room below her, filled with a bunch of Chinese people or Asian people who just I don't know. They have a bunch of silly scenes with them there. This movie does not make good use of its minority characters. Like I'll just say that
No.
it does not do justice with them. The one Asian lady from downstairs, she bangs on the roof a lot, telling her to quiet down, telling Jill to quiet down, including one scene where she's just like, "Oh geez, this is terrible. They're not even married." Over like a scene where the robot's tearing the place up. And it's like I sure hope they don't normally sound like that. So yeah, she falls, and we get teased that she's died in the fall. She's eventually fine. Moses fights the robot for a bit, and gets stabbed with the neurotoxin, which slowly kills him. We get a whole trippy scene with him where he ends up cutting his wrist, and some bugs come out. Oh yeah, the security guys got killed by the door. This is when that happened. We get our whole very lame trippy scene. The trippy scene involves like some kaleidoscope stuff. We get a flashback where Mo says he's never going to leave. which may have just been a point to end the movie. Actually, I would have kind of liked that. Actually, just have that be the end of thing of like them kind of just like being together in the afterlife and like dwelling on that tragedy. So yeah, Moses is dead. Jill is recovering. Jill tries to get back into the building, and this is the part where the Mark 13 closes the door to her building on the older security guard, who then ends up shooting the younger security guard in the head is when he like gets wounded. So that's a whole thing. Jill decides to go on ahead with only a baseball bat to go take on the Mark 13. Shades is trapped behind the door, which is closing and opening, and he kind of has to just like eventually time his jump right to get through, which he'll do eventually. Jill manages to hack into the computer. I think Mo's consciousness is in the computer too. I don't know. It's really confusing. There's not much going on in this scene, or there's a lot going on in it, and none of it makes sense. They have a whole thing where like they tried to Jill tried to have a communication with the Mark 13. Doesn't end up working because the Mark 13 just wants to kill people. There's a whole like thing where like Richard Stanley just says like, "Oh, the Mark 13 isn't really evil; it's just following its programming." Which, dude, I think you're overplaying how sophisticated this robot is. Like, it's not that good. It's just like acting like a petty serial killer. Let's face it. It doesn't. Yeah, I think this movie does have like pretensions of being a bigger deal than it actually is. Jill ends up fighting the robot. The robot ends up chasing her into her shower. That she ends up turning on the struggle. Shades has also showed up and shot the robot in the head a couple times. The shower turns on. Because this robot is apparently not waterproof, they finally managed to kill the robot with the water, which I thought they would have done this a long time ago. I thought they were going to like fire extinguisher or something. Although I suppose a cyberpunk dystopia just doesn't have any fire extinguishers or fire suppression equipment. Uh, although I think there's a lot of buildings in like modern UK that don't have fire suppression equipment. I think that's actually like I think they straight up just had like a couple years ago where there was like a bunch of like 10 people died in a house fire because they didn't have fire suppression equipment in the building. So that's maybe up to straight up just some normal that they're just trying to say. I think that was the real message that just like the UK needs fire suppression equipment.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what I was saying earlier. Like the fact that like the having a death killer robot that's like not water resistant in a world that you needed to have like waters to travel from place to place. Like it just seems like such a lack of oversight
yeah.
by whoever created this robot that it's kind of like how do you justify like I get that it's kind of like a cool up in the air ending where they're like and now these two people who are the world's about to be mass produced by killer robots know how to destroy it. They can like take it on together or some bullshit like that, but like really doesn't do that well either. Like it just kind of like hits every single mark it's like setting out to me.
I get like I think like the problem was that like after you destroy the thing, maybe you just can't waterproof it again. Okay, I think that's maybe part of it because like is it like welding itself together properly or something? I don't know. Yeah, as and we get a whole thing where Jill smacks the robot with her baseball bat in slow motion, destroying the thing as after a while. And then that's pretty much the end of the movie. We get a thing from Iggy Pop again saying that they're building a death robot factory and they're going to start mass producing the Mark 13, and that's going to give 800 new jobs for the building. Presumably, they are not up on what the Mark 13 is.
Also, I like reading throughout like the Wikipedia page. It keeps on abbreviating the word mark. Like it's a M-A or M period A period R period K. 13, but like they never explain what that actually means, do they?
No, I thought it was just like the model number. I don't, yeah. Because like especially like when Alvi was searching through the documents earlier in the movie, there was like a Mach 11 and Mach 12, or Mark 11 and Mark 12. So it's not like acronym. It's just like this is the model number. It's super
Okay,
dumb. Yeah.
maybe I missed that.
But yeah, that's the movie. I think we've said everything we can possibly say about it. What do you give it?
I'm gonna give this like a 3 out of 10. It's one of those things that like it's really easy to hype up on paper. If
Yeah.
you read like the Wikipedia page, it seems like it would have been like a decent story, and then if you actually like start going through it bit by bit, it just kind of starts losing its luster, I guess.
Same deal for me. I'm exactly on the same page. No, yeah, just none of it ends up adding together properly. It's something that sounds cool on paper, but it's in practice just not there.
Film received positive reviews from 46% of 13 surveys. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a score of 5.7 out of 10.
Yeah, a lot of people like it. I kind of disagree. Doesn't do much, honestly.
Yeah, I think if you are looking for like a film about like killer robots, you should just go watch like Terminator or any other.
Literally any film this took inspiration from.
Yeah. I was looking at what you're bringing up earlier, but the Soylent Greens movie or novel or whatever it was called, and that was set in the year 2022. So
Right? I remember that
exactly
actually.
this year in like 1966 or something like that. So
Oh, I remember that being brought up actually. Oh god. Uh
it's good to see we aren't quite there yet, but I mean we're not far off.
uh yeah. Well, I think that's enough for tonight. Yeah, follow us on Facebook. Filing Quiz called CinemaCast. Like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel's we've been getting some looks on it. Bunch of
Yeah, it's comments. Like one guy came in like with 13 comments.
oh, the
It's a
Zardoz
whole
thing. Yeah,
pretty much essay on the Zardos movie,
yeah.
which is pretty cool to sit down and read after.
I got a good one on the Big Wednesday review. I like the
Yeah,
comment I got on
we're
that.
weirdly getting weird amount of traction with some of the older like, like
Yeah.
genre
Occasionally we get
movies.
like a little bit of
So
a
I
hit.
mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be an interesting one when.
But yeah, see you guys soon. We'll maybe do another Christmas thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, see you guys soon. Have a nice day. Goodbye.